Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the anime God Eater Season 1 on Netflix. And this was a so-so anime. It really doesn't have that deep of character development, though there is a little bit, mainly on one character. And it's got some action, but not really the best action. So one of the biggest issues is how the animation style is done. Because it's this weird kind of trippy ass thing of semi 3D on certain, like, with certain kind of ways of how the characters look, and then full on 3D for the Aragami, the monsters that they gotta fight, for the God Eaters. And it just really messes with the action when you got like a 2D dude with a kind of semi 2D, 3D weapon fighting a 3D thing, and it kind of takes you out of it. Like, if you're going to do 3D, do 3D. If you're going to do 2D, do 2D. If you are going to use an amalgamation of the two, try and keep them from interacting a lot. So that way you don't really call attention to it, because I'm like looking at them like using their god arcs, their weapons to kill the Aragami monsters, and it's just like slicing through them really weird, and it's like, I don't really care. And that's really not a good kind of way to go for an action anime like this. Just how I feel and what I see opinion-wise with what was going on with it. Because it's just, it takes you out of the action. Because you're just like, okay, that's that ugly looking, barely looking thing, and it kind of pulls you out of the world, and then trying to see them like slash through. It's not as bad when they're using their gun mode with the god arcs. But when they're really getting close and trying to fight them, it kind of clashes. So, this world is pretty much like Attack on Titan. Now, granted, I understand that's kind of weird. I don't know exactly the timeline of when this anime came out versus Attack on Titan, but I know this has been a game series for a while, and the thing is you get a lot of overlap with them, but you don't get, like, the character development to kind of differentiate the world. And once you're trying to kind of get the background lore, it's just kind of strange on that. Because this is kind of broken up of, we are in the present day of like 2071. And then we get some flashbacks to like 20 years previously of how this whole shit show began. But we don't even really get the complete idea of how it began. And we just see these scientists dealing with this thing, this oracle cell, and it just acts kind of funky and like mutates shit. And we're like, okay, they were digging somewhere and fucking found it and decided, let's mess with this thing. And it went, and I know that's kind of a weird like way to describe it, but it like turned into a giant mass and like exploded out kind of blob style. And like, we shouldn't fuck with this thing. And it's like, oh no. This one dude, Johan's like, fuck this thing, let's actually use this maybe, I guess. And they continued to mess with it, and for some odd reason it was able to get out and make like a dog ass thing that's like killing people and everything. Like, alright, let's just continue this with the military, with Fenrir's like, alright, whatever. And they're like, no, don't do these things, but we need like weapons against these things. Alright, figure out something on that. It's really not very clear, because these flashbacks kind of pop up at the end of the episodes at like the oddest point, and you're like, alright, fine, now I got that information, but how am I connecting these things? So evidently, Defender is able to use this like bias factor for the anti-oracle, and then when the world goes suddenly like, fuck all bullshit, giant spikes come out everywhere, and then monsters start popping up, because that's just how this works. There's a lot of plot demands reasons this happened too. And kind of to it. Now, I am okay with like people hunting monsters and shit like that. As long as it's consistent lore-wise, or at least interesting. Here, the consistency is mainly in how it's delivered and what information we get, and we start getting like barely any, and it's like, alright, and they're trying to figure out how to fight these things. It's like, hey, how about the baby that we just conveniently made? We kind of experiment on that thing so that way they can be able to wield pretty much a creature that we have made to kill the other creatures. And that is an actual reason. So, Johan and his boo go through with this, and she goes all, and we find out that the child that was created, Soma, is one of the people in the elite units of God Eaters when we're following the story in the present. It's like, okay, I understand that I'm technically doing this out of chronological, well, technically I am doing it in chronological order, but how the series presents it, because this kind of makes a little bit more sense going into it. Sometimes mysteries and just reveals just don't work, and these were kind of like halfway in my opinion. Could have been better, mainly down to execution. So, he is sad that his love of his life had turned into a mass thing and decided to try and kill himself, even though he's got his kid like fucking right there. But they're able to bring him back. It's like, all right, maybe you were saved for a reason, to save the world. And we find out that he had his talk with the other scientists in their trio, and that he decided to become head of the Fenrir East Branch to try and create the devouring apocalypse where all the origami are supposed to come into one being, destroy the world, and then make the world so that way it could be back together and brought back to zero. I understand trying to make a cycle like this, but it's just so damn uninteresting. It's like, if that's the case, then everybody should just like let themselves get eaten. Though Johan dude is like trying to we see at the end of the series, create a rocket to put people in space, set off the apocalypse with his giant head girlfriend lover thingy, because he's just been feeding that cores, and it can eat people on command because it doesn't eat him, because reasons. Whereas the scientist dude that has been making the God Arcs is trying to get to the point where origami can intelligently communicate and be like, yo bro, stop fucking eating us. I'm like, okay bro. Alright, we'll have to see how that kind of works out. So we are brought into the actual beginning of the series, where we get this dude, Lenka, and he was evidently outside of the city, and he was brought in because he has a high compatibility score, and is brought in to be a God Eater. And of course he's training and everything, but of course this is the first episode, so of course he's going to disobey orders and try and help people, and is able to get his God Arc because it is conveniently finished, even though he's disobeying this major's orders. And, by the way, I don't mind fan service and everything, but it's really kind of weird when you usually frame your shots with like someone's boobs there. It's just, it kind of takes away from what's going on, because I know you're trying to impart information to me in certain instances when they're trying to do it, but when it's really uninteresting, I'm just like, okay, just continue on with the scene. It's like, whatever, I don't care what's going on. It's just so strangely done. It's like, this is supposed to be serious. Here's this boob out of focus right in front of the shot. I'm like, okay, strange artistic choice, but I was bored anyway, so go for it. You know, it's like, alright, but Lenka goes off like a dumbass because he has to, because the plot demands it. That's all I've got. I mean, understandably, he is the main character, and he has to do stupid things in order to learn things, but he doesn't really learn. It's really weird. I mean, he does kind of learn things, but it's done in such uninteresting, poorly executed ways that you're like, okay. So he's going out, and he really doesn't know how to wield this thing because he's been using fucking training shit, and he gets kind of fucked up a little bit. But the thing is, I understand his heart is in the right place because origami have come into the city and are killing people. And he's like, I want to kill all the origami. Sound familiar? He wants to kill all the titans? Yeah? Yeah. So, he pretty much gets fucked up a little bit and loses his God Arc and pretty much is like fucking some people around. Helps a God Eater who's wounded pretty heavily. But then the first unit pops up. We see Lindau. I guess his name is Lindau. That's what I saw in the wiki and what I heard, even though sometimes I saw that his name was something else in the anime. Sometimes it's like, whatever. He's got a chainsaw one. We got Soma popped up there, and kind of like the rest of the team, and they're fighting these little Aragami, and then also this Vajra big ass Aragami. And he's able to get back to his god arc, but the thing is, he gets fucking stupid and gets close to the Vajra and gets knocked out. This is also after he is able to show that he's able to switch his god arc from Bladey mode to long range mode. And they're like, oh shit, he's a new type. Which evidently it's just him and then this other person coming from Russia. And then we also get his one friend who is tacked on like the worst third wheel possible. Like, he barely has any character development. He's like, hey, I got brought into and here's my mom and all that. And like, oh honey, I hope you come back alive. And he's just kind of afraid. He likes to gets brought on for like when they're like hunting for cores for the Aegis project, which is just make my girlfriend big to eat the whole world project. Yep. Yep. And someone pretty much like blasts him for just like get your head in the game kind of shit. It's like, okay, VR representations of what's going on with these Aragami is different than being in the field. You should be picking your battles better, like taking them out, understanding what's going on, and doing actual on-the-job training. But what do I know? Even hiring practices in the post-apocalyptic future suck dick. So, this is where he gets like knocked out. He's put in the brig because he was Big Billy Dumbass. But we find out that Lindau is talking to the Major, who is his sister, and we're like, hey, give him to me, because we got to go save the other new type, who's coming from Russia, because flying Aragami are going after them. And she's like, fine, go talk to him. He's like, hey, what do you want to do in here? I kind of want to help and protect people. Well, then come with me. And she lets him do that, and they were going to take his God arc and give it probably to somebody else, but I mean, he's got such a high compatibility rating, which is brought up later, and you're like, whatever. Okay, that's kind of weird. Kind of led me to a thing that I'm like, okay, maybe this is going one way, but we'll kind of have to see about that. So, we go and we see that this person, Elisa, is from Russia. She is a new type as well, but she's the one that has the most character development. Now, Lindau's pretty cool. He's the cool kind of guy. He can have that air of mystery. He gets kind of developed as well. But her parents were killed when she was younger by this mutated, weird-ass looking Aragami. So she's Big Billy Badass as well. And she doesn't really care. Of course, they go there and like, get off the plane! She's like, fuck no! And of course, it's not that definitive, but there's a reason behind it, because they send, of course, Lenka down there. They're fighting off the Aragami, and they get inside the plane, and we see that there's all these people injured and everything. So they're able to get to a plan and take out all the Aragami, and are able to get them off the plane as they see a giant motherfucker Aragami floating down in the sky that doesn't pop up again. Nice tease, but alright. So they get her to the base and start integrating everybody into the unit, kind of running on all these different kinds of things to get cohesion, also getting flashbacks and all that. But we see that Lindau and Soma are being sent on different kind of missions and all these kind of things, and so it's left to the third kind of in charge of the first unit to take them out as they're hunting for more cores because they need it for the Aegis project. However, they run into a lot of Vajra because they decided instead of going after the little ones, they're going after the big ones because that'll complete the progress faster. That they find this Vajra nest and they find some people and like, let's help these people. Of course, the giant mutated Aragami that messed with Elisa's parents and killed them pops up. She goes fucking nuts and pretty much gets them into a sticky situation where Lenka gets really fucked up. Like, seriously, should have fucking died. Like, slashed across the stomach, impaled through the back, all kinds of stuff. God Arc gets snapped in half. Well, not in half, but it's broken. And him and her get, like, thrown out into the wilderness. We get more of her kind of backstory and how she's now freaking out at any sight of any Aragami, pretty much. Because they've been using pretty much meds and hypnosis to kind of fuck with her to make sure that she gets past this trauma. Let me just say that that is not the most effective method to do this kind of stuff. you usually get these kind of situations. So she's separated from her god arc, and Lenka doesn't have one that's really kind of good. She wakes up and like, oh, I intended to. Let me go kind of leave here and leave this dude bleeding here. But she's like, fine, whatever. Bandages him up, touches his god arc, like, hey, if you touch any, which has no meaning until we're told later that, yeah, I touched his god arc and it didn't react. Because evidently, if it's not coded to you, it'll fucking eat you. Anyway, we pop up, they're able to walk through the land, and they find her god arc. She is trying and use it, but she's completely broken out. So Lenka's trying to use his unusable god arc, and then pretty much tries to shield her, but Lindau's able to pop up, and they're like, alright, we're saved! And he's like, I got another place, and takes them to this colony that he's pretty much created of people who have been rejected by Fenrir to get into the city, because you have to have a compatibility rating to become a god eater, and if you don't have that, you don't get in. And the only way to get in if you don't have that is if you're a family member of the person who's got the compatibility rating. So he's helped make this whole thing. He's even like helped grow origami trees that'll kill people. Well, kill people or origami that come near there. But evidently an origami gets to that point. Lenka is able to use his god arc by putting a bias factor thingy in it. It's able to buildings that I talked about in the past. They had these anti-oracle things. For some reason, he's able to inject it in that, and it like works, and he's able to kind of push the thing into the river, and, well, not the river, the reservoir lake, and then able to shoot it out of a dam. So, yay, the people are saved. And of course, Elisa is still freaking out, because that is what they've done with her. Now, I understand those kind of traumas take a time to get through, but it takes an inordinate amount of time to kind of like get her. It's not until pretty much the end that she's able to come to terms with that. So they get back, and we find out information and all that. Lindau was able to kind of see and like, hey, this shield project isn't good. Just puts a target on his back. Lenka learns that he has such a high compatibility rating that he is going to die if he continues to be a god eater. If he doesn't and stops right now, he's got like 3 years to live. Of course, this would not be what it is if he's like, I will continue on, even though I assumed once we got that, if he used it this time, he'd essentially die and go on. Because I thought with his high compatibility rating that he was like a human origami or something, because we learn how he was found in the past when we get that kind of thing going on. And funnily enough, that's kind of where we get it. This girl and her family were rejected from Fenrir City. They find him as a baby, take him, and she names him. And they go through some stuff about like 8 years after they found him, and he was a little baby. The mother dies of this sickness, and he had been sick too, so they had to do like a Sophie's kind of choice and give the medicine to him. Of course, later on, closer to the present, we see, well, also in when he was 8 years old, they actually ran into a younger Lindau, and that's how he got this compass. That's kind of a motif that I didn't really care about. I like things with that kind of deeper meaning, because it's like, oh, we're trying to point the way for people. It just became so over the head of, like, pretty much giving hope and all that stuff in this kind of world without a god and all that, that it was almost like the Ghost in the Shell live-action movie was saying ghosts and shells all the time. There is such a thing as trying to hammer a point too hard. But we get closer to the present, and Lenka comes back. He's given the thing that his mother used to wear, and the sister looks like she kind of has feelings for him. It's like, alright. I mean, granted, they're not related. But they're kind of out and about. Well, Lenka's out and about, and then they get attacked. He's able to find her. They find the father dude, but he's trapped and tells them to go, and she is severely injured, and they're trying to get to Fenrir. But the thing is, she is so injured that she can't continue on, and she's trying to tell him to leave her. She's like, I'm not going to do that. And this scene was so weird, because it's like, she went and slashed her throat and survived for the longest time. Like, seriously. having full-on conversations with him about like how he's got this really high factor. He should go there. We're not blood related, so they'll never let us in. So just go, leave me. And as she's dying, she sees this better world, and she runs to Lenka, and they embrace and all that. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. As she's getting eaten by the Aragami, and I'm like, wow, that could have been better if it was executed better. Because I really didn't care about her. I'm like, yeah, this work's kind of screwed up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then we've gotten pretty much back to the present point, and we figure out that there's this operation where they're trying to gather the rest of the cores that they need to complete Project Aegis. And everything's going all right. Lenka's being pretty much in command back without his God Arc because they're still fixing it. And then, of course, at one point somebody's messing with these things that are supposed to be drawing in the Aragami, and all the Vajra are going some other place. Of course, put into the village that Lindau has been trying to protect, so he goes and tries to protect that, and they shoot off the new God Arc to Lenka, which is like the most overpowered goddamn thing, and of course, has to work, and like, all this shit he's got would have been perfect to fight, like, the PETA Aragami, but it's funnily enough just used all to pretty much protect Lindau, and it's just like ridiculous how fucking OP that thing is. It's just okay. He's got like fucking laser beams and shit. It can do all this other things. I'm like, wow, okay. But they get to the point. First unit's able to make their way over there and get them back up. But of course, that's when the PETA Aragami pops up and like, I'm a big dick with it. Big dick with it, yeah. And starts fighting them and everything. Of course, Elisa has been at this. She was brought back into the fold because she had pretty much been messed with by this doctor and hypnotized to the point to kill Lindau because he was fucking with the sanctity of the project. And she gets to a point she does kind of shoot at him, and it kind of messes everything up, leaving Lindau by himself. But they get through it. She gets back into it, and they leave Lindau with PETA, and they try and go and save the rest of the people because there had been a device to draw in Aragami there. Lindau kind of gets his ass beat, but that's about the last that we see of him. As they're getting into the village, we see the PETA Aragami pop up, and he's got Lindau's arm in his mouth. Funnily enough, it is only the arm with the God Eater bracelet on it, so it's like, okay, he might have lost an arm, and that's just to get everybody off his back. We see this pretty much confirmed at the end of the anime. So, Lenka is able to rally everybody together. They get Soma to take out the device. Pretty much the rest of the Aragami are wiped, and they start a pretty nice fight with PETA. I mean, it's pretty epic. It's just got the problems of him being CGI and the rest of them being like 2D, kind of half CGI at some points. But they're having problems trying to take him out, but they see that Lindau was able to damage one of its stabby wings, and Lenka's able to focus on it. His God Arc gets fucked up again, and everybody is able to kind of distract it to the point that he is able to fuse that broken blade bit on his God Arc and fucking annihilate the thing in like no time flat. And this messes up his fat Oracle factor kind of thing. And he looks Super Saiyan at the end of it with like gold hair, gold eyes, and everything. I thought he was going to die there and Aragami-ify or something, but not turn into an actual Aragami, but like be reborn. But that didn't happen. He just passed out and he's back up and the leader of the first unit now with just golden eyes. And then we also see that somebody is following around watching Soma, and that they brought supplies to somebody that's smoking Lindau with one arm. So, this anime wasn't like the worst thing that I've seen. I've seen ones that have executed and done worse things. Voice acting was nice, wasn't horrible, had no problems with that. The animation was not the worst of qualities, it's just the meshing of the CGI and the 2D and the action scenes was just like, eh. Some amounts of character development, but not enough to really get you invested in what was going on. Not really well executed explanation of the lore and everything, just your typical kind of monsters have popped up, let the monsters eat the world or whatnot, or try and talk to the monsters, and that's about it. So, I really wouldn't recommend this anime, again, only if you absolutely need something on in the background and everything else sucks ass and is shit. Sure, pop it on. Because you're not really going to get the amount of character development that would really get you invested and really drawn into the world, and the action is just so-so. I've seen better action in a lot of other different things. And, of course, since there's a lot of blood and everything, don't go for this if you're squeamish at all. Just don't. So, yeah, those are my opinions on the anime. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.